Hello everyone and welcome back to the Dork Side. I am the Dork on the road and today we're going to talk about whether or not the Suzuki DRZ400 is a good first motorcycle. That's right everyone, I am the Dork on the road and I want to be your internet riding buddy. So please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn on those notifications so that you know when I post awesome new content just like this. So as many of you know, I picked up a DRZ400 a few months ago, been riding it a lot extensively in the forest, on the trails, on the road, all over the state basically. I've enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it. In fact, it has rapidly become my favorite motorcycle to ride and it is insanely fun and super awesome all around. So I love that bike. Recently I've been getting a lot of comments from people who are wondering if I think it would be a good first motorcycle, a good motorcycle to start on. And I have some thoughts about that, so I thought let's throw it together and make a video so that everybody can hear them. Before we jump into the DRZ specifically, just let me say that I did a video previously on why I think a dual sport is the best first motorcycle. I'll link that for you up here. But just short version is I think a dual sport's the best first bike for a lot of reasons. They're cheap to buy and cheap to work on, very reliable, easy to maintain. The Japanese dual sports anyway. The insurance is very cheap, at least mine is. It's nice because the plastics on a dual sport are cheap to replace. So you can get a full set of plastics for a DRZ or a CRF 250L for 100, 150 bucks, whereas a single piece of bodywork on say an Africa Twin or a BMW GS might cost you that much. So new riders are more prone to drops and kind of slow speed fumbling that leads to the bike ending up on the ground. So it's nice to know that if you are to mess up one of those pieces, it's cheap and easy to replace them on a dual sport. And the great thing about a dual sport is they're the most versatile motorcycles in the world. They can do basically anything you might want to do. They can ride the highway, they can tear up forest roads, they can do some more in-depth, involved trail riding. So you can load them up with gear and drive into the backcountry and moto camp. And so when you're a new rider, you don't really know even what you don't know. So it's nice to be able to try out a bunch of different types of riding on one bike to really figure out what your focus is going to be. I didn't know I was going to be a primarily off-road rider when I started, but that's basically all the riding I do these days. In my opinion, if we're talking about first motorcycles, I really feel like there's two things we should measure them on. The first is the obvious. Is it easy enough for a new rider to handle? Are they going to get themselves in trouble? Is it intimidating? Is it something that is manageable for someone whose skills are limited, who's just starting in the world of motorcycle riding? And two, the perfect beginner bike would also be a bike that you could ride for a long time, that you're not going to outgrow rapidly. So like a Honda Grom is a great bike to learn on, but eventually you're probably going to want to go on the highway. So it's not as good of a forever motorcycle. As an example, I know Grom fans, they're really fun, but in terms of your only bike, I don't know if it's a great choice. So let's talk about those two things separately as they relate to the DRZ400. Is it easy enough for a new rider to handle? I like to rate these things on a scale of 1 to 10, and in my book, the DRZ is probably about a 7 in terms of being easy enough for a new rider to handle. There are a few reasons for that. The seat height, first and foremost, is intimidating for a new rider. I can remember looking at DRZs when I was shopping for my first bike and seeing how high that seat height is. It's up to about my navel and I'm about 5'10", and thinking it's going to be really hard to get my feet down. Getting your feet down and being able to maneuver around on the motorcycle as a new rider is a huge concern. It's something that's foremost in your mind. I know us veteran riders don't think about it as much, but as a new rider, it was definitely something that I was thinking about constantly. And when I work with new riders, talk to new riders, they say the same thing. So the additional seat height, making it harder to get your foot down, is intimidating. And if you're going to take it out into the woods, into the backcountry, or off-road at all, anywhere that there is uneven ground, that problem becomes a little bit more prominent. That is true for new riders and for experienced riders. I tried to put my foot down on uneven ground and dropped it just 2 days ago, as a matter of fact. The other thing that's concerning is the bike. It's not like incredibly horribly powerful, like it's not a Busa, but it's very torquey, and it has a lot of torque at low speeds and even low RPMs. So new riders make silly mistakes. They do things like, you know, give the throttle sticks open, or they turn it too far and drop the clutch too quickly. And these are the kinds of things that'll get you in trouble on a bike this torquey. It wheelies pretty easily. I know that because even I can do it, so it must be easy. New riders make silly mistakes, and it's not very forgiving in terms of what on a less powerful bike like the 250L might be a, whoa, I pulled the clutch in and caught myself, versus, oh, I looped out on the street and the bike, went down a cliff or something, right? The margin for error is smaller on a bike this torquey and with this much power. That's not to be all doom and gloom, and don't hear me saying this and hear me saying the DRZ is crazy, impossible to control. It's not at all. In fact, power delivery is smooth and very beginner friendly, I think. It's just, it's not what you do on purpose, it's what you do by accident, and there's less room for those accidents. They're potentially more catastrophic on a DRZ than they would be on an easier, less torquey, less powerful bike. So that's why it's a 7 out of 10. It's not a 2, right? It's not a twist the throttle and explode kind of situation, but it is something to be aware of. You need to be mindful. You need to pay attention to what you're doing, more so than on a less powerful bike as a new rider. Couple other cons for a new rider. It's not the most comfortable motorcycle in the world. No dual sport is. Highway riding can be intimidating because it doesn't have a 6th gear, so it's super wound out, and the wind on a light bike like a dual sport will blow you around. That's kind of scary if you're a new rider and you're not used to it. And the knobby tires, if you're riding the S model, have a little bit of a wobble at a high speed. It's not the most stable feeling platform at highway speeds because it's a dual sport bike. So that's the first thing. That's how easy is it to handle for a new rider. 7 out of 10. Not impossible, just, think about it. Think about what you're doing. The second qualification for a bike for a new rider is it something that you can grow into and ride for a long time, or is it something you're going to feel like you have to replace once your skills get a little bit better? And on that score, I would give the DRZ a 9 out of 10. It is an excellent bike that you can ride for a very long time. The DRZ is like the Swiss Army knife of motorcycles. It does everything, except it's like a Swiss Army knife with like the best, most durable, awesomest knife blade, and then everything else is a pretty okay tool. Because there's a reason why the DRZ400 is both one of the most popular, if not the most popular dual sports of all time, and one of the most popular, if not the most popular, supermotos of all time. It's great at both of those things. It's capable and insanely versatile. It can crush trails, do forest roads, haul your camping gear into the backcountry. It can take you anywhere you want it to go, just stop for gas a lot. And it can also, in supermoto trim, tear up the city streets and carve up canyons. It's a great, fun motorcycle with plenty of capability and power to keep even an experienced rider entertained and having a great time with a big smile on their face. In my opinion, it is unequivocally one of the most fun motorcycles to ride. It hits a real sweet spot in terms of usable power. Whether you're brand new or experienced, it excels off-road compared to all street bikes and to many other dual sports, except for the way more involved, way more expensive, way higher maintenance KTMs, Betas, those types of bikes. Basically, it's awesome off-road, it's awesome as a supermoto, and it's at least okay at anything else you could ever want it to do. So why isn't it a 10? Why is it a 9 out of 10? Well, it's not the most comfortable bike in the world. Lots of people complain about the lack of a 5th gear and the fact that it has a carburetor. I'd say those concerns are overblown, but they are worthy of noting. There are better bikes for specific types of riding. You're not going to be cruising down the highway like you would on a touring bike for hours and hours at a time. There are better off-road bikes out there. There's dirt bikes at the KTMs, like I said, but there are very few bikes that do as many things as well as a DRZ400 will do. And that's true of most dual sports, but the DRZ is special in that, while still maintaining the super long maintenance intervals, cheap upkeep costs, and the bulletproof reliability of this proven design that's been around for decades. And that's the other huge advantage of it, is you're tapping into a community that's existed for 20 years. This bike has existed unchanged for 20 years. So lots of people have owned them. There's no problem you could have with this bike that someone else hasn't had already. The aftermarket is huge. There's all kinds of new and used parts out there you can add to your bike if you want to. You can make it into basically anything you want. It is a fantastic bike that opens up a world of possibilities and that you'll be happy with for a long time. 9 out of 10. Overall, it's a very good choice for a first motorcycle with a few caveats. If you're careful with the throttle and okay with the above average seat height, then you could find yourself starting out on one of the most versatile, reliable, and popular motorcycles of all time and enjoying it for years and decades to come. That's my opinion, my take on how the DRZ400 is as a first bike for a new rider. If you want to see some footage of the DRZ in action, particularly off-road, check out my dual sport trail riding adventures and my dual sport adventures playlist. If you want more info about the DRZ, check out my DRZ400 playlist. If you're thinking about trying to decide between a DRZ400 and a CRF250L, got a video on that too. Please don't forget to hit that like button if you liked the video, if you got any information out of it. That really helps YouTube know to show it to other people and helps the channel grow, and I appreciate you for that. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!